It's time! Welcome to another day, another unboxing. This is the OnePlus 8T. That's the box. Some IMEIs at the bottom. The OnePlus logo here. OnePlus, very well done. Let's open it up. Oh, it's taking its sweet time, but here we go. Nothing here. Nice little detail here, the 8T on the side. 8T on the other side. All right, so we've got a divider first. Let's take a look at that. I'm pretty confident that's all the paperwork for this. So here we got the invitation letter. This is a pretty standard thing from OnePlus with the SIM removal tool. Let me show you this because it's like always a little message that's friendly. Here you go. I will leave this up for you to read. All right, then we've got a quick start guide. It's got instructions, tells you where all the buttons are and everything, and it's in multiple languages. All right, and then we've got some SAR information, some stickers, of course, nice, and then we've got the safety information stuff that nobody cares about. Now, we've got the phone in the box here. I'll get to that in a second. We've got a charging cable, and this time it's a USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable. This is a little unusual. Most OnePlus phones up to the Warp Charge 30T used a C to A cable with A on the adapter, but this has changed now because of 65 watt charging. So let me show you this adapter. There it is. And as you can see, it's got these rounded corners instead of being kind of squarish. Here's all the information. But if you want a 65 watt charge, you need this charger, you need this cable, and you need this phone. So that's kind of interesting. That's one of the big features of the OnePlus 8T. Instead of 30 watt charging, it's gone up to 65. And the way it does this is with dual batteries that are charged in parallel. But anyway, that's it for the box, folks. So nothing else here. Let's look at the phone, shall we? Ta-da! So let's open this up. Here we go. So this is the phone. Let me get that IMEI sticker. Here we go. And ta-da! Ooh, this is a very similar color to the OnePlus Nord. And the camera pod's really interesting. So let's talk about everything on this phone. But before we do, let me fire it up. There we go. So as usual for OnePlus, there's a pre-applied screen protector here. Doesn't make a huge difference unless you're a clumsy person. I don't generally leave them on. So this is a 6.55 inch AMOLED screen. And one of the nice things about it, just like the Nord, this is a flat screen. There is no rounded curves like there was on OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro, which I like a lot better. I really don't like the waterfall edges. This is Oxygen OS 11, so it looks a little different, the welcome screen, than it used to on a OnePlus phone. 6.55 inches, 1080p, 120 Hertz. That's the big news. Instead of 90 Hertz on the OnePlus 8 6 months ago, we're now getting 120 Hertz on this display, which is really nice. You got a hole punch here for the front camera, and you've got a bit of a chin down here. Not too much, but just a slight more bezel at the bottom, as you'd expect. So the battery system is interesting. 4,500 milliamp hour total battery, but it's divvied up into two cells that are roughly equal, so 2250 milliamp each. And this charger here can charge these in parallel. So both of the cells get charged at the same time by this charger. And the end result is super high speed charging times. Like we're talking 35 minutes from empty to full. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Oppo's been doing this with other phones like the Oppo Find X2 Pro that I unboxed and reviewed a while back. And so it's nothing new. The BBK group, which Oppo is a part of, OnePlus is a part of, has been doing 65 watt charging on a bunch of phones now. So yeah, cameras. Let's talk about cameras. Maybe let's start with the front camera quickly. So the front camera is a 16 megapixel camera, f/2.4 with 1 micron pixels. It's fine. Then on the back, we've got 4 cameras. 2 of them are kind of useless, very much like the Nord. The other 2 are the meat of it. So we've got a 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 main sensor. That is the same camera as on the Nord. the same camera as on the OnePlus 8. This is a nice setup. It's got OIS. It's a proven sensor that works really well. 0.8 micron pixels. It pixel bins 4:1 to create a 12 megapixel photo with 1.6 micron pixels. I was hoping the OnePlus 8T would get the 8 Pro's IMX689, which is a better 48 megapixel sensor, but it didn't. So that's what we're stuck with. It's not really stuck. I mean, this is a good sensor. f/1.7 OIS, 48 megapixels. All right, next we have an ultra wide. The ultra wide is a 16 megapixel f/2.2 with 123 degree field of view. Could be 1 micron, but I'm not sure. Then we have a 5 megapixel dedicated macro camera. I'm not sure it has autofocus, but certainly going to be an improvement over the 2 megapixel from the OnePlus Nord and the OnePlus 8, because those were fixed focus as well, but very low resolution. So I really hope they put autofocus. Macros are kind of useless unless you have autofocus, and at least it's got more pixels and more detail at 5 megapixels. Then there's also a 2 megapixel monochrome camera here. I'm not sure what it's used for, maybe depth sensing or extra light gathering for better dynamic range, hard to tell. There is no wireless charging on this phone, just like the 8, so keep that in mind. And again, 4,500 milliamp hour battery in here. This is a Snapdragon 865 with either 8 gigs of RAM or 12 gigs of RAM. It's LPDDR4X, it's not the fastest LPDDR5, but it does have either 128 or 256 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage, and that is nice and quick, which is welcome news. We don't know the pricing at the time I'm doing this review, so if I know the price by the time I publish a video, I will put it right here. Let's give you a quick walk around. So you got a notification slider, very OnePlus here. You can slide this between silent, vibrate, and sound on. Power lock key here. This is on the right hand side. On the bottom here, you've got the speaker. This has stereo audio. It uses the earpiece for a second speaker. It has USB Type-C and dual SIM tray, no micro SD. On the left side, you got the volume rocker, right? It's pretty much standard stuff. And then you got on top just the secondary microphone. I presume the primary mic, oh yeah, it's right there in this antenna band. That's it, that's the layout. That's the OnePlus 8T, folks. A slight upgrade really over the OnePlus 8. The big news being the 65 watt charging. You're getting a slightly better macro camera and a different screen that's 120 hertz and doesn't have round edges. That's basically it really in terms of differences between these two phones. So stay tuned, I'll obviously have more about this phone pretty soon. But before we finish, I wanted to show you, this came with some cool cases, as usual for OnePlus. So there's this 3D printed like looking case, which we also got for the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro. You know, I say 3D printed looking like because it's got these kind of weird like steps on the edges here. I don't think it's 3D printed necessarily, but it's got that, you know, DIY homebrew vibe to it. It is somewhat flexible. And then you've got a really cool circuit board like case here. That one is pretty sweet. So I'm kind of excited about that. Notice that there's no case in the box. There's usually a transparent TPU case with OnePlus phones, but that's gone. So I think I'm gonna probably set it up with this case because that's a really cool looking case, right? So folks, stay tuned. I'll have more content soon. This is the OnePlus 8T, and yeah, please subscribe, like, tell your friends, click on the notification bell below to get notified. Comment below, let me know, would you buy this phone? What do you think of this phone? Do you think OnePlus is heading in the right direction with this OnePlus 8T, especially since we know there's not going to be a OnePlus 8T Pro? Are you going to look into getting this phone, or are you going to wait for the special edition of the OnePlus Nord that's coming to the US at some point, rumored to have a Snapdragon 690? Let me know in the comments. And then remember, this is a compliment to the podcast at mobiletechpodcast.com. So please check out the podcast, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Spotify. So I suggest you listen to the podcast. Anyway, that's it, folks. I'll have more content soon. And until then, cheers, everybody.